welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101. I am joined by a new friend of mine, Mr. Chris Parrino. Chris, how are you, man?
Not too bad. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you on, man. I've heard from, it's funny, within the last, month maybe, I've just been hearing from a lot of guys, hey, you need to have Chris Parrino on. He's a legend. He's just, he's the best there is. And I'm like, well, we're actually already getting scheduled to get on together. So, but it's just funny that in the last month, I think 4 different people have told me that you're the man that needs to be on the show. So, it's an absolute honor to have you on, man. I'll tell you, it's Saturday, and anytime the Razorbacks are playing football and basketball on the same day, that's a good Saturday, man. And I'm glad you're not from Missouri. Otherwise, I'd have to hang up on you right now. But unless you're a Missouri fan. No, man, but it is an honor to have you on. I am excited to talk bow hunting with you specifically, talk some recurve and just tell some fun stories along the way. Before we dive in, man, give us a quick introduction to yourself, kind of how you got to where you're at and what all you got going on.
Well, I got to be honest with you. That introduction might be hard to live up to, but I don't. I shooting traditional bows or recurves kind of just been, pretty much my main hobby most of my life. I mean, I've just kind of always enjoyed it. Haven't really had other, hobbies. So it's kind of been it. But no, when I was younger, my dad, he did a lot of fishing, and he'd take me fishing, and we did a lot of stuff outdoors. But when it came to hunting, he didn't deer hunt, and he didn't, for whatever reason, he didn't think turning me loose with a gun was probably a good idea. So he told me I could go deer hunting, but I had to use a bow. So he took me over when I was, oh shucks, man, probably 13, 14 or whatever, and got me set up with the bow. And I started shooting it, and hunted probably the first 4 or 5 years. He'd take me up to a state park, and we'd do some hunting. And a neighbor down the road had a old bear hunter recurve that he loaned me one year. And man, I got to shoot that recurve, and I liked it. I really enjoyed it. But at the time, I didn't really have any much guidance. But yeah, I hunted 2 or 3 years with the compound, and was shot a little buck and a doe, and kind of had that recurve, and would kind of messing around with it. And I got to shooting at an archery shop. They had like bow hunter rounds, and so I got up there and started shooting. And there was a group of guys that shot recurves up there, and kind of got in with them and started shooting. And they were always pretty successful hunting, So hunting was probably where my, kind of, I love shooting a bow, and I kind of liked doing all that, but hunting's really what I wanted to do. So I got to hanging out with those guys, and they were all fairly successful at what they did. So they kind of took me under their wing, and, of course, to hang with them, it's like I had to shoot a recurve. I mean, not really, but, that's what they did, and they were successful at it. So that's kind of what I chose to do. But yeah, it was, that's kind of where I started. And then in, 1991, I think I was probably 20-ish or so. I thought I wanted to build a recurve. So I ended up probably built 40 or 50 different recurves, and, hunted with them from about 2000 to about 2015, 2016, and did a lot of hunting, and got to go several different places, and hunted with bows I built. And then I kind of, in 2016, I wanted to get back to shooting a bear bows. I mean, if you're, follow archery, or if, everybody's heard of Fred Bear and listened to the stories. And, so that was always something that impacted me a lot when I was younger. And 2016, I tried to get back in with bear archery, and started shooting their bows, and pretty much been shooting them ever since. But yeah, it's
So do you still make some of your own on the side or anything?
I don't. I was building bows and hunting with them, and then I just kind of, I always wanted to, if you follow Fred Bear, he always chased bears and definitely did a lot of bear hunting, and that was always kind of a dream of mine. And so I really never thought I was going to get to do it. But man, in 2003, I went to British Columbia and went grizzly bear hunting and shot a grizzly bear, and then I ended up shooting a brown bear and a polar bear. And I'd shot several black bears before that with bows I built and with my own bows. But once I kind of got that done, then I wanted to go back up and shoot some bears with bear bows. Kind of do it the way Fred Bear did it. And I think I shot another 4 more grizzly bears with bear bows. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. You kind of watch all the videos, and just watching the old footage of Fred Bear, it just kind of always had a dream to try to follow in his footsteps and do some of that stuff, and that's kind of what I've done.
Now, how long does it take you, and I don't want to get off topic because I got a ton of questions to ask you. How long does it take you to build a recurve? If you were to start building one, how long does that take you?
Well, I for sure was not super fast at it, but I mean, I probably had 30 to 40 hours in each one. I mean, obviously,
Okay.
the first one was, I mean, I could usually do it if I worked on them, every day, or, if I worked on them straight for a week, I could get one built. But I mean, my process was totally different than what Bear or any of the, big manufacturers are doing. I
Right.
would glue stuff up and then kind of let it set, and the process just didn't go completely through. I might get something started, get a handle started, glue it up, and it might sit for a few days, and then I'd get back in and get it shaped. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I'm a plumber by trade, and that's kind of how I pay the bills. So the bow building was obviously a hobby. So I had to do it, at nights, weekends, or, whenever I had time. But yeah, it took me longer than probably a lot than it takes, other guys. But it's just because my process was, probably a lot simpler, or, I didn't quite have the tools or equipment. I did a lot of stuff by hand. I didn't have profilers and stuff like that, so I did a lot of rasping and cutting and a lot of handwork. But yeah, I mean, they work. Go ahead.
I had a guy. I worked at a bow shop through college. That's what I did to work myself through college, and had a guy come in, and he had 2 bows, 2 long bows, and he said, "Man, I'm so proud of these things. Been working so hard on them. I made these by hand, and he said, I really want to get the draw weight tested. Could you guys tell me what they weigh?" And my dad happened to be in town. I went to college out of state, and he happened to be there, so he'd stop by the bow shop to just hang out until I got off work. And my dad's all about pretty handmade bows, like loves traditional bows and stuff. And so he's sitting there admiring these things, and oh man, they're so pretty. What kind of wood you use, how long they take you. My dad's just one of those old school guys. Well, what kind of knife did you use? I mean, just that kind of guy. And so my dad was just drooling over these bows. And my coworker grabs the first bow, and we step back around the back of the wall there to where we had our scale, and he hooks it onto that scale and pulls it back, and the whole bow shatters and just breaks into a million pieces. And so he goes out, and the guy's face just turns straight blank. I mean, just like he had seen a ghost. And my buddy just looks at him as serious as he could be and says, "Well, it got to 30 pounds before it broke." And he said,
Oh,
"Would you like
jeez.
me to measure your other one?" He said, "No, I think I'm okay," and walked and walked out. But it was just it broke my heart to see that guy's bow break, because I mean, better than I do. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of uh artwork, thought. I mean, planning and building a bow. So I felt so bad for him, man. But no, it was, they were pretty bows, but not made to shoot. Um, so what's your favorite trophy up to this point?
Well, I mean, I'd probably have to. I mean, I don't. They're all. You know, pretty much everything. You go shooting stuff with recurves, and they're all pretty meaningful for you, because it definitely is can be definitely be a challenge and be difficult. But I mean, I've got some deer that are pretty memorable. I mean, deer I've seen several different times and end up taking them. Elk were for sure a shooting my first elk took me several years, and so most of the animals that were the tougher they are, kind of probably the more memorable they are. But the grizzly bears they're up there. Like, I mean, the bears are definitely something that always, those were pretty much every hunt that I did for those were extremely memorable, and an element of excitement in each one.
That's my favorite trophy to this point would actually be the black bear that I harvested last year. And what's crazy, I'm 90%. No, I'm 98% bow hunter. There's not many things I hunt with a rifle. We went to bear camp, and I brought both my bow and my rifle, and just kind of left it up to the outfitter. Whatever you think I need to use. So I bow hunted quite a bit, rifle hunted some, and rifle hunted the last night of the week for my last sit. It's where the outfitter thought I'd have the best luck, and literally within the last 2 minutes of shooting light, I harvested a bear with my rifle. And I never would have dreamed that I would say that a rifle kill is my favorite trophy or most memorable hunt. But like you said, I had worked so long for a bear, and I had wanted to harvest a bear for so long, and that when it all came together, I could have cared less what was in my hand. I finally was standing over a bear. So there's a little thing I like to call sweat equity, and when you've put a lot of work into an animal, it means more on the wall. It tastes better on the table. I mean, just that's how trophies should be measured, not the size of the animal, not the inches of horn, but you know the memories made and the hard work put in, and when it all finally comes to a close, man, that's what it's all about.
Well, I mean, I think that you probably hit the nail on the head. You know what a trophy is to you. Like each individual knows what kind of effort or what time or how hard something was or not. And I mean, I think that again, most people, when we've all got certain opportunities to go certain places, and when you go and if like some guys, don't have, I mean, I don't have 170, 80-inch whitetail running around their place. Well, if you don't have that running around your place, you're not going to shoot that. So, your your trophies are pretty much, I don't want to say limited, but a trophy to you or to a person that's hunting in an area that doesn't have that size deer or whatever, a deer that's smaller, is just as big a trophy as if you were hunting in an area where you got a bunch of trophy bucks, so
Absolutely.
it's got to be an individual's choice, and people, I think, need to, you got to be happy in what you're shooting, and that's kind of what I think that sometimes, people look at Instagram or different things, and they get this perception that everybody shoot well. They don't. I mean, it's heck, man. Guy goes out and shoots his first 6-point buck or 4-pointer or doe or whatever with a bow or whatever he chooses. If that's your first one, that's pretty. That's pretty important to you, and you're going to remember it, and that's it ought to be you can't compare that trophy to what somebody else has done that I mean, everybody starts somewhere. I mean, that was your first black bear, and it meant something to you, and that's great. That's kind of what it's all about.
Well, and that's why, there's a lot of there's a lot of things I say, saying wise, that I got from someone else, but I think that the saying that I came up with on my own and that I've always used is know your trophy. And what I mean by that is like exactly like you just said. If I'm hunting in Arkansas, with that's where I grew up, born and raised. If I'm hunting in Arkansas with my dad, and I see a 130-inch buck, I'm absolutely going to shoot it. If I see a 120-inch deer in Arkansas, I'm absolutely going to shoot it. And people have to understand, just like you just said, that's the equivalent of shooting a 160 here in Kansas, or a 165, 170 here in Kansas. Why? Because the deer are just smaller. That's just how it is. And so I always just tell people to know your trophy, and that's kind of what I told my wife. She's getting ready to start hunting. And we're gonna try to get her first deer. And she says that I'm the one that keeps her from hunting because get this, Chris, I bought her a bow and got her shooting, man, and she was shooting good and got her out hunting a few times. And that very first season of her hunting, we got pregnant with our middle. And so she didn't get to hunt, and then the next year we obviously had a newborn, so she didn't get to hunt. And so then we had our youngest, so she didn't get to hunt again. So after about 4 years, we're gonna get her back into it, and she's gonna harvest her first deer. But she says I gotta quit getting her pregnant if she can, so she can hunt. So, but that's what I told her is, babe, you got to know your trophy. You got to know what's it gonna mean to you. Don't worry about shooting a 150-inch deer. Don't worry about shooting a 160. If you see a deer for your first deer and it gets you excited, shoot that deer in a heartbeat. Why? Because that's your trophy.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you said 130 in Arkansas. I can tell you right now, I live in Illinois, and I'd shoot a 130-inch deer for sure. So, it's each to their own, and I mean, people, a trophy needs to be kind of what the individual. Um, and I don't want to use the term set, like you can't, but if you go out and have a good hunt, make a good clean shot, to me that's kind of what it's all about, and whether whatever somebody else their opinion is or whatever they think really shouldn't matter. Like I don't, that's probably for me. I mean, I've always been maybe a bit of a loner, or just kind of like to go out and do my own thing, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously, the more animals you shoot, the more hunting you do, you get a different level of experience. And with that, you probably tend to bump the game up a little bit, or maybe look for something a little bigger, or but when you're just starting or you're getting into it, or and it really doesn't make any difference whether you are or you aren't. If a 4-pointer is a trophy to you, shoot it and be happy, and that's what it is. But I don't know. I mean, we hunting is kind of a individual sport, to me. I mean, you can hunt with groups of guys, but ultimately when you head to the woods, you're hunting by yourself, and what you come out of the woods with, or don't come out of the woods with, it's, I don't know. I mean, I've hunted a lot of days and not got animals, and it's way better than working. That's all I know.
Now, before we move on, when it comes to traditional bows, you you have a hand, and you can kind of tell me what all it entails, but you produce a quiver, a pretty bad to the bone quiver too. It's what I've been using on my recurve, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Tell me about that quiver.
Well, when I started years ago, back in the 90s, 91, 92 or whatever, there was not a ton of guys out there building quivers for traditional bows, but there was a company, and they started up in Montana, and they built a leather hooded quiver. It's Selway Archery, is who it is, and I bought a couple of those quivers when I was just getting into it, and man, I literally was slide on. They had like rubber grippers that slid on the limbs, and with a rawhide head hood. And I used those quivers for like 15 years, and truthfully, I used about the same one. Like I would replace like arrow, the foam in the hood, the broadheads. I'd get them cut up and they just wore out, and I'd replace those hood foams, and I just loved them. Like I loved that quiver. That quiver was it was just bomb proof. I mean, as far as for hunting, it was extremely effective. But being a bear fanatic, or kind of liking all the you just stuff that's branded Bear, or the Bear bows, and that Bear made several different versions of some like spring arm quivers and some wire framed quivers, like through the 60s, really through the I think it was like the late 80s or early 90s. But man, they made several different models, and I had some and used them, and I always liked the quiver just because it had the Bear logo on it. Like, and a couple 2 or 3 years ago, I'm like, man, that hood would look great on some different hardware. And since I had I was pretty much a Selway fan, and had used the product and hunted with it, and it just worked better. And so their hardware, to me, I thought was the best on the market for a recurve quiver. And so I went to them, and actually I talked to Bear about trying to get a licensing agreement with them, and they were super, and very good to work with, and they allowed me to get a licensing agreement. So I went out and tried to remanufacture basically that hood, and get the same color. It was greenish, like I think they called it grayling greens, what they called it. But I kind of redesigned that hood, and just color matched the green, and tried to get the lettering and the logoing, exactly the way the original was. And then I went to Selway Archery and asked them if they were interested in, us kind of working together. And, because they had all the molds and everything to produce the parts. And they said that they were interested, and it's kind of been a downhill slide from there. But man, I was tickled. I mean, I wanted their parts. I wanted them to use their parts and their components on the to kind of get the quiver built. So it's kind of I wouldn't say a hybrid quiver, but it's their components, and just kind of that nostalgic remake of that quiver hood. But I I'm happy with the way everything turned out. And I mean, like I said, it's to me, it's just the perfect system, because it's going to hold your arrows on the bow. Everything's quiet. You don't have. I mean, it's just to hold the arrows, and then to kind of keep the bow quiet. And yeah, I mean, it's I couldn't be happier, for sure. I mean, it's just truly a functional quiver, and then got the kind of the nostalgia of the the old bear stuff.
Now, is Selway the only place to get that quiver?
Well, Selway, I produce the hoods and exclusively, I provide the hoods to Selway, and then they assemble the quivers. And they have, I think Three Rivers, and I think Kinsey Archery. There's probably some others that I'm not naming just because I don't know, but that's pretty much if you go to Selway's site, you can order them there or find them online. But if you go to Selway Archery, um, you can pull up their site and you will find them. And again, they have several different. I mean, for me, although the slide on is what I prefer, they have other, like they've got a strap on model, they've got a quick disconnect model. I mean, they've got a model for longbow, they've got a side mount model. So you really have probably 3 or 4 different attachment systems that kind of to whatever you prefer, and then with that you can get black parts or brown parts, so you can kind of, I mean, most of the bear bows, bear uses a lot of black glass, so most of the bear limbs are going to be black. If you get into that 59, the Kodiak remake is brown. So yeah, I mean, if you prefer the brown, you can get brown parts, but the black parts pretty much, they'll match the limbs of most of the bear bows.
Yeah, and that's actually, so that's what I've been using. Like I said, is your quiver. So, and you guys know that Selway and Three Rivers are both good friends of the show. So, head over to one of those 2 places and look for the Grayling quiver, and that's our boy Chris Parrino putting his touch on the quiver. So, I have been very impressed with it. However, Selway is currently making me a one of my own quivers, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be it's going to have the Hunting 101 logo on the hood, with some lime green stitching on it. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll have to put the Grayling on one of the bows and put the Hunting 101 quiver on the other one. So I'm excited about it, man. What's one animal that you've always wanted to hunt, never had the opportunity to?
Oh man, there's way more than one, but I am kind of a that's a tough question for me. I mean, I want to hunt everything, but I mean, I've never been to Africa. I mean, I'd really love to go to Africa. I mean, for some strange reason, predators are to me just, I like hunting them. I mean, I like hunting. You know, mountain lions and bears, and just I like hunting predators. But I'd love to go to Africa, and probably in the last 10 years, I've had, it's like I really would like to. I'd like to try to chase a Cape buffalo. I mean, that's probably an animal that I've probably had on the mind. But goats are something else that I'd really, I'd love to do too. I mean, I just would love to do a mountain goat. Sheep are probably out of my range, but you can do some pretty good goat hunts up in Alaska and that for, you know, not totally break the bank, but yeah, sheep are mountain goats or Cape buffalo probably be the 2 that I'd really like to, get a crack at.
Well, let's plan a trip to Africa, man. I've wanted to go to Africa for a long time. I had somebody tell me one time, they're like, "Listen, it's like hunting nowhere else on the planet. It's just incredible. You must go." And I'm ever since then, I'm like, "Yeah, well, I need to." So I've been wanting to go for a while, man. I think my favorite animal, Africa wise, would have to be a black buck antelope. I think that those are gorgeous. Um, I think they'd be really challenging to hunt with how small and fast they are. But also the trophy on the wall looks fantastic. They taste delicious. I've had black buck doe before. I've never had a buck before, but just fantastic taste wise.
Well, Africa's definitely been something that's been on my mind, and I'd love to go. Man, I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but man, I'm that 20-hour flight scares the crud out of me, to be honest with you. So,
I've flown to Japan once and to Tokyo, and it definitely was not fun, but yeah. No, I understand, man. It's those flights. I don't like flying with a lot of equipment. And then of course, if you do harvest an animal, much less, if you're going to Africa 2, 3, or 6 or 7, then you got to ship everything back, and it just gets outrageously expensive. But certainly is on my bucket list for one day.
well, I like I said, I would love to go. I think about it every year, but there's an awful lot. I went this year. I went down to Texas and hunted those odd-head sheep, and that was a fun hunt. I went down there and hunted, and it was, of course, I think those things originated over in, kind of over in that area, Africa. So yeah, that's I don't have to fly so far. It's not really a hunt that broke the bank. So, and it was challenging and fun. It was a good hunt. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm headed to Texas in January for a whitetail hunt, and Texas is just such a fun state to hunt because it's so game rich. There's just game everywhere, and just tons of different kinds of game. And so Texas is a special state to hunt, man. If you've not hunted Texas, you should certainly go and give it a shot because we went there in March of this year. I was literally on the Texas Mexico border. I could see the border from where I was hunting, and my phone starts dinging and ringing, and my wife said, "Dylan, we just entered a state of emergency, or a national state of emergency because of COVID." And we had literally planned on crossing over the border that night to get some tacos and stuff, and needless to say, we didn't do that. And my wife said, "If you do, I'll kill you because they won't let you back over. You'll be stuck in Mexico." So yeah, but it's a special state to hunt. We went down there, and like I said, we killed a black buck, we killed mouflon, we killed javelina, we killed hogs, just a good time. So game rich and just such a fun state to hunt. So I would certainly check out Texas. Now, I've got a question I ask all my guests, and this has become one of my favorite questions to ask because I find myself using them and I find myself sharing them more than I ever could have imagined. And that's, Fred Bear was big on field notes, taking field notes. And so what's a field note you've learned over the years? Just a tip that you've jotted down and you've always kept with you, something I can add to my arsenal and keep with me, and something that'll make me a better hunter.
Well, I think that a lot of the guys that I've hunted with over the years, I think the one thing that I've always taken from them, and most of the guys that you see that are super successful, probably the biggest one is they just don't quit. Like they don't. Like my dad used to tell me, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and I think there's a lot of reality to that. Like you just, you can't. I think a lot of people get hung up on, what they're wearing or what there's a lot of things that people get all concerned with is, what am I wearing? What's my tree stand? What kind of equipment do I have? Well, you get I'm a big proponent of having the best quality equipment you can, but the number one thing that I see in all the guys that I've hunted with over the years that have been super successful is they just hunt. They get out and they get with the program. They just, they probably go earlier and stay later, and they just keep grinding it out. I mean, they just keep, and usually if you do that, you will kind of make your own success. If you keep, you keep hunting, I mean, it's not a total recipe for always being successful, as punching tags, but if you keep going and keep after it and keep hunting and kind of don't give up and head back to camp and give up. Those guys are usually the guys that are filling tags, and I mean, they kind of make their own luck, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, one tip that that I've taken over the last season, this literally the last season of hunting, that I learned was just hunt harder. And it's just exactly, it goes back exactly to what you say. I found myself each hunt making an excuse. If a deer came in 40 yards and I thought, man, I should have moved my tree stand over there. Or, if I was in a ground blind, I thought, if I was just in a stinking tree stand. Or, if I would have had a rifle, or, if I took the recurve, if I would have had my compound, that deer would be dead. There's one time I took my recurve and had a deer at like 25 yards. And I'm like, if I just had my compound. Well, I didn't have my compound. So at the end of the day, just hunt harder. Which is why I like a recurve, because it forces you to hunt harder. With a compound, we can sit back and shoot at 70 yards, 80 yards. At a whitetail, I shoot 40 yards, 50 yards. But a recurve forces me to hunt harder because I can't shoot as far. So that's kind of become my field note for this year, and my motto for this year of just hunt harder. No matter what. I mean, if you're hunting with a recurve, hunt harder. If it's snowing, hunt harder. If it's, what I mean? So it's exactly what you just said. Stay in there, grind it out. Don't play the game. Well, if this would have happened, if this would have happened, if this would have happened. Instead, just hunt harder and make sure it happens the next time.
Well, you can only control what you can control. I mean, I don't. I mean, I think I mean, hunting is not. It's not. There's no guarantees in it. Like, there's no guarantee for success. But you got, if if not killing something is going to just totally ruin your hunt, then maybe it's not the thing to be doing. It's just not. I guess it's like playing a basketball game or playing baseball, or if you've always got to win, that's I think people probably lose what it's all about. I mean, I mean, for the animals, this game is. I mean, there's a lot on the line. If we go out there and buy a tag and go hunting, we are out whatever our tag costs, but the animals, it's life or death. I mean, they're playing. It don't end up good. If we end up winning, when we're out there hunting them. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think that it should be all about the killing. It needs to be about the kind of the overall experience. Get out in the woods, enjoy it, and hunt as hard as you can. Which hunting hard and hunting smart are two different things too. Like you definitely gotta. To me, wind is everything. Like I do not hunt the winds. If a wind's bad, I usually move. I don't try to fool their nose, because I don't think it can be done. But if you take all that into consideration, try to set yourself up to be successful, and then just spend the time either in the woods, in the stand, or trying to spot and stalk. Just spend as much time as you can. It's the deer are not. They don't leave the planet at noon. They're still there. Or, the animals are still out there. They may be bedded up or whatever. But I have I've got up a lot of mornings super early and got out in the woods, and man, end up seeing something or spotting stuff at noon, 11, any time during the day. So if you limit yourself and say, well, I'm going to go sit in my tree stand. You sit there from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8, and then go, head back. Well, you've lost a lot of time in the woods, and the animals are still out there. So that would
Right.
be, probably the biggest thing I do.
I also learned too, and it's something I guess I've learned, with kids, having kids and having to choose my time in the woods wisely. I can't just go out and hunt whenever I want or whenever I please. I've got I got to wake up, get the kids to school, and pick them up from school, took them in at night, and so I've had to learn to be selective in when I go hunting, and I've learned not to hunt just to be hunting, if that makes sense. Don't go out just so I can be out in the woods, but rather, like you said, wait till the wind's right, wait till the weather's right. If it's say, for instance, if it's October 28th and it's 85 degrees, I'm probably not going to go hunting if I know on the 31st or on the November 1st or 2nd there's a big cold front moving in, it's going to dump some snow. I'm going to just wait. I'm going to hold out, and that's when I'm going to go hunting. So that's one thing I've learned too over the years is don't hunt just to be hunting. There's other things I do, and some people say, well, I just want to be out. I just want to be outdoors. That's fine. Go out and scout. Go out and I'm not saying you have to stay in the house, but I don't want to go in there and sit in a tree stand just so I can be in a tree stand if I've got a bad wind, because I could mess things up for that big buck I've been chasing. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go out and just hunt just to be hunting. Chris, where can people? I know this is what I appreciate about you, man. You're not even on social media, are you?
I am not. No. When I was younger, my mom and dad, I think they, I led a lot of my friends down the wrong road. So when I was younger, I think my parents kind of told me not to be, they didn't want people following me. So I tend to try to stay off of that stuff. I don't want to be a bad influence on somebody.
So where can people? Is there anywhere that people can stay up to date on your hunts? What you're hunting, what you're chasing, what you're killing.
Most of the stuff that I'm doing, I'll try to, take pictures and, send it to Bear and let them use it or what, what kind of whatever they feel they need. But I don't really have, I got a couple different companies or guys that just kind of been good to me over the years. And I usually shoot them some photos or whatever, but I don't have anything. I don't really have,
Okay.
I don't have any social media.
Bear does post quite a bit of your pictures, quite a bit of your harvest, if not all of them. So if you want to keep up with Chris and everything he's shooting and everything he's got going on, make sure and follow Bear Archery, and watch out for those photos of Chris. Chris, man, I appreciate you so much coming on. I know you're busy. I know you're out trying to get some work done. So I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and coming on the podcast, man. It sure was an honor to have you on the show, and like I told you before this, and I'll tell you again, this won't be the last time we hear from you. I certainly want to continue to have you on the show and continue to. I want to continue to glean knowledge, to glean wisdom from your knowledge, and I don't know if that's even how you say that. I want to continue to learn from your expertise, and so I know our listeners probably sure do too. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll have a great week.
Okay, man, I appreciate it. Thanks.